by historian Heather Cox Richardson caught my attention. It describes a pamphlet distributed to our World War II soldiers to help them understand why we were at war. It begins, quote, "You are away from home, no longer at a civilian job or at school, and risking your very lives because of a thing called fascism." Fascism is not an easiest thing to identify, nor once in power is it easy to destroy. It's important for our future and that of the world that as many of us as possible understand the causes of fascism in order to combat it. It goes on. Fascism is government by the few for the few. The objective is seizure and control of the economy, political, social, and cultural life of the state. The people run democratic governments, but fascism governments run the people. The basic principles of democracy stand in the way of fascist desires. Hence, democracy must go. Anyone who is not a member of their inner gang has to do what he's told. Fascisms permit no civil liberties nor equality before the law. Fascism treats women as mere breeders. Children, kitchen, and the church is the Nazi slogan for women. Fascists make their own rules and change them when they choose. They maintain themselves in power by use of force, combined with propaganda based on primitive ideas of blood and race, by skillful manipulation of fear and hate, and by false promise of security. Their propaganda glorifies war and it insists it is smart and realistic to be pitiless and violent. They would try to gain power under the guise of super patriotism or super Americanism. Fascism thrives on indifference and ignorance. Freedom requires being alert and on guard against the infringement not only of our freedom, but the freedom of every American. If we permit discrimination, prejudice, or hate to rob anyone of their democratic rights, our own freedom and all democracy is threatened. End of quote. Wow.
Wow.
We knew about fascism back then. Have we forgotten? Sue and I had 9 uncles between us that served in our country fighting for democracy in World War II or shortly thereafter. Sue's Uncle Paul was killed in battle. My Uncle Maunus was wounded and lost the use of his right arm. Because of that heritage, we were raised to love our country. To us, America has always been the land of the free and the home of the brave. Many of you have those same backgrounds. Look where we are now. Every one of those fascist elements is happening before our very eyes. Recall our president saying, "I am your retribution." Maybe we should cancel our election. He's threatening to use the so-called Insurrection Act to deploy U.S. military in the streets of Minneapolis. It's in our face. Democracy is under attack. We're compelled to ask ourselves, what does this threat ask of us in this 2026 national election year? First, we must be clear about the threats that are happening. We must educate ourselves and those we can reach that we are losing the freedom and the rights our ancestors fought for. Second, we must encourage everyone who hears us to use their freedom to vote to counter those threats. That means we must work to get folks registered to vote, be sure that they have the opportunity to vote, and that they then actually do vote. This is not just talk. There's a Texas saying that somebody who does a lot of talking but doesn't take action he's all hat and no cattle. Well, that's not us. We don't have cattle, but we do have elder power. And we're going to act and we're going to measure and post the outcomes of our actions. There's another saying, don't mess with Texas. Well, we're very much going to mess with Texas. There are very large Latino and Black communities in Texas and other states whose votes have been suppressed and whose voters have been dangerously misinformed by bad actors. We will educate and then activate wherever these circumstances exist. So in closing, this is our response to counter the misguided politicians who are intent on replacing our still evolving democracy with white supremacist-led autocracy. Yes, Houston, we still have a huge national governance problem, but we are an intrepid group of elders willing to face this and many of our other societal problems. We strive for the good of our grandchildren, future generations, and all life. And in so doing, we realize our destiny to be activated elders and good ancestors. So with that, over to you, Janice.
Thank you, John. Very, very
Well done.
inspiring
Wow.
words. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good, good. Thank you. Good day, everyone. My name is Janice Hopperwell, and I'm pleased to say that I volunteer in the communications team for Elders of Sound Democracy. And today I will share some information with you about our organization overall, about our state team network, and about this year's voting action team. Next slide. This year, ESD's primary focus is getting out the vote, and we intend to help do that by supporting voter education that includes making sure people know their voting rights and making them aware of voter legislation. Additionally, we want to help increase voter participation from within communities historically underrepresented with low turnout. And we'll do that while we continue to confront authoritarianism and efforts at corruption. After all, we are here to promote a sound democracy. It's important that we reflect on our internal needs as well. So we will continue to engage elders with opportunities to share your talents and your passions when it comes to a sound democracy. Later in this meeting, we will provide you with such opportunities. And it's important for us to grow through enhancing and expanding our state chapter network. More on that shortly. Next slide. We collaborate. One of our best tools is our ability to collaborate with other organizations. For instance, next slide. The Environmental Project maintains a voter database in 21 states from which they identify non-voting environmentalists. We then help them with postcard writing and phone banking. With the Center for Common Good, in a recent campaign, our state teams in Florida and Wisconsin were provided different coloring pens and encouraged to write postcards that were colorful with both lettering and simple character drawings. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Many years we have worked with the Civic Center on their high school senior class voter registration program. We reach out to high school parent-teacher associations and the parent-teacher-student associations to help create senior student-run Register Now campaigns aimed at their fellow students. We then have Third Act, who operates as a partisan organization, but ESD is nonpartisan, and we need to protect that status. So our California chapter is in discussions with the Nevada Third Act team on how we might collaborate on common goals through separate meetings, maintaining our organization's separate statuses. We are working with the leader of the California and Hawaii division of NAACP to enable their membership to work with us on the high school seniors registration project in their high schools with large Black student enrollments. This creates a possibility for us to diversify this project in California and maybe Hawaii. And then Climate Action California. They hold a two-session workshop each year to teach how the California legislature works to get bills passed. We are encouraging our California chapter leaders to take this training so we are an informed group when we meet with legislators in Sacramento. Next slide. Why high school voter registration? Well, there is a voter generational gap that disenfranchises the youth, and we strongly believe that the student-led voter registration drives in high schools can help close that gap. That's why we feel our continued collaboration with the Civic Center is so important. As you can see, we have some states where 16-year-olds can register. The Civic Center provides resources to address the gap, which is something that I think most of us can recognize, that the youth, 18 to 24, is really underrepresented in the voting scrolls. Next slide, please. But we do our own thing too. Not everything is collaboration. We have radio public service announcements known as PSAs that we can distribute. We provide flyers for faith community weekly bulletins. These are things that individual members can ask for and then work with their faith communities to get them distributed. And they will be available in both English and Spanish. Members can drop off flyers at the retirement and assisted living facilities and community centers and use them at any tabling events that you might be working with. We can also provide messaging for social media accounts. So those are things that the team here on the national level are working on, but we're encouraging our individual members to take advantage. Next slide, please. Just as a recap, in recent years, we have provided postcard writing with the Environmental Voters Project, 15,000 cards to multiple states. For the Civic Center, we have done 55,000 cards for high schools in the Pennsylvania and Arizona area, with thousands of cards for low-income families in Nevada. We also have done letter writing, friends and family letters, trying to encourage their activities, and letters to the editor. By the way, we will soon have a webinar on how to write a letter to the editor up on our website, so stay tuned for that. We do phone banking. And many of those phone calls go to the non-voting environmentalists, which we work with EVP through our sister organization, Elders Climate Action. Next slide, please. We like to provide congressional and legislative support. With the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, Congress has a chance to protect the freedom to vote against a wave of discriminatory state laws. This is something that we can get behind, and hopefully we'll have some action alerts that will arrive in your emails that show you what possible actions can be taken to support these with your legislators. And with the Move to Amend project, this is an amendment that would classify artificial entities such as corporations as not having constitutional rights. So that's another project that we'll be supporting. And in California, they are working on a climate and democracy legislation support for that. And there's a public campaign finance ballot item that's coming up. And in Sacramento, there are members of ESD who have been going to meet with the legislators to discuss what they can do to help make passage of these things happen. Next slide, please. So the building enhancing our chapters, that's one of the things that is an internal effort on our part. We need to approach our audience who are attracted to educate to activate, or interested in finding their tribe, which is a common phrase these days. Many have multiple interests, and this is our audience. This is who we're trying to appeal to. And then with the structures of our chapters, they provide a purpose that is specific to the local area, the state, the counties, the towns, the cities, and with a connection to ESD National, which can provide support in efforts that they deem are important to them. And they can identify and pursue projects that are important in their geographic area. Next slide, please. And building or enhancing a chapter, we have different environmental and social government issues per state or region. And working with key national and state organizations becomes an important part of what our chapters can do. They can bring back to the national group information in their state that they might like help with, or that we can perhaps tie them in with other states that have had similar issues. But it's a give and take organization with our chapters and national. And excuse me, we need to continue to work the election goal that we have in terms of both the federal level, but also on the state and the local level, including getting involved with perhaps our school boards. That's something that is more and more appropriate these days in terms of trying to move things from the bottom up, if you will. And next slide, please. Okay, this is about the voting action team that I mentioned earlier. This is the year that we have activated this team with the mission that we want to help increase voter access and turnout in this particularly critical election year. Our ESD voting action team works to increase voter participation, especially in communities with historical low voter turnout. We are committed to ensuring that every eligible voter can participate freely and fully in the electoral process. We have robust, nonpartisan get out the vote efforts. As I mentioned earlier, we have collaborations with partner organizations that amplify our impact. And we are expanding efforts to confront voter suppression and safeguard voters at every step of the electoral process. There are a lot of threats going on out there in the world, and we need to be quick on our feet to be able to address those issues when they arise. Next slide, please. And how we can do that? Well, We have something called action alerts. These are emailed special alerts about a item of not emergency, but urgent needs on your behalf. We want you to be able to take these action alerts, and we will provide you actual actions that you can take to support whatever the incident is, whether it's the John Lewis voters bill, or whatever it might be. We will get a message out to you through our action alerts. We also have the Democracy Toolkit, which is on our website. This is a place where you can find lots of information about longer term efforts that you could be working on, short term efforts that you could be working on. It's really a big database, you might say, of other things that are available out there for us to work on. We have our Democracy Forum speaker series. Those take place when we're not having a community meeting like today. At this time slot on another month, we might be having a Democracy Forum speaker series. In fact, we have one with Robert Hubble coming up, I think next month. So keep your eyes out for that. That'll be mentioned later in today's meeting. We have the newsletter that goes out every other month right now, and it has a lot of information about some editorial work, but also some things that you can get involved with. And there are oftentimes requests of certain teams asking for some additional help, and we would appreciate it if you would think about those and how you might be able to bring your talent to a team that's looking for some help. And we in turn will be, we have our website, which, by the way, the website is being redesigned. We are currently in a flux. You'll see that it looks quite different, but there's a lot of content that we're still working on. But that will become a very viable source for you in the very near future. We are also reaching out to update the action teams and our state chapters when we have new information that they may not have yet. So that's another way that we are going to be reaching out. Next slide, please. Our activities. Well, we are going to identify through research and promote pro-voting efforts with nonpartisan action. These are demonstrated to be effective and efficient to increase voter access and turnout. Keep our community of elders informed and explore partnerships again with organizations that have track records of increasing voter turnout. Again, collaboration as well as our own activities. Next slide. What we can do, get out the vote. There's a postcard campaign for Wisconsin Supreme Court election that's coming up. That will be mentioned later. You'll get more information on that. We want to promote voter information. We've given you some of the vehicles by which we can do that. Provide guidance on voting rights and challenges. And again, the high school voter registration drive is very, very important to get the participation up with our youth. Next slide, please. So your next steps. Next voting action team meeting is coming up on Tuesday, January 7th. The write cards for the Wisconsin Supreme Court election. You can register to participate in that. And the Youth Vote Action Team meeting, which is, they're going to have a nice speaker, Karen Chenoweth from the founder of Education and Democracy will be speaking. And to register for any one of these three items, you can click on this hyperlink and it will take you to the registration for that item. You will be getting copies of all the slides, so you will have access to these links. Next slide, please. If you're interested in getting involved in the bigger picture, not just an event, but a bigger picture, please get in touch with myself. My email is right there. And then for the state chapters, their growth and organization is a major project for Melissa Sterry, and she would love to hear from any of you who would be interested in getting involved with our state chapters. And with that, I will say thank you very much for listening, and we'll move on. Thank you. Is it Joff that's up next?
So I think Ken was going to
Ken,
speak
yes.
next. Ken, you there?
I am here and I'm happy to be next. Hi, folks. My name is Ken Barnes. I use he, him pronouns, and I live in Kentucky, New Hampshire. I'm going to talk to you about two of the action teams that we have as part of Elders for Sound Democracy. And they are they're intertwined, and obviously we cooperate with each other, and our missions are the same, which, well, I guess everybody in ESD's mission is to protect our democracy and make sure that it's still here after the upcoming elections. The first team I'm going to talk about is the Preventing Corruption Action Team, or PCAT, P for Preventing, C for Corruption. And that started out as because of great concern over many years of the big money in politics, which buys elections and then corrupts what our elected officials do, because they serve the donors and corporations who put them in office. And it really has a corrupting effect that has been exacerbated since the Citizens United decision, about 13 years ago. But it was a problem even before then. And the idea of fighting corruption was to get the money out of politics so the politicians could be elected based on their ideas and serving the public interest, and voters could vote, have an equal vote with the big money people, because big money influence of buying expensive ads and saturating the media with television ads and everything to get their candidate elected, and spreading false information makes it very hard for a fair election to take place. And in recent months, the Preventing Corruption team has focused its attention on a long-term project that is related, and they call it Prevent Bigotry and Protect Students. And this focuses on facilitating communication between local communities and their school boards to fight the bigotry that takes place in our schools, which is a rising problem, and the great problem of school bullying. So marginalized groups, whether they're racial or ethnic minorities or LGBTQ folks, people or just people who aren't as well off as some of the other people in school, get bullied and treated as second-class students, and that makes it much more difficult, if not impossible, for them to get an education. And so the team focuses a lot of its attention on fighting this bigotry and protecting students while they're in school, so they can learn. And by the way, when they learn, they can become informed voters, and that will enhance our democracy. So in addition, one other thing that the Prevent Corruption team does is it has put together and compiled and continues to maintain a very helpful action toolkit. And this toolkit is available on our website. You can find it and in flyers, and I'm sure somebody will put a link to it in the chat very soon. And you don't have to look at it now, but the toolkit really empowers elders to take action to protect democracy. It lists several different categories of actions that people can take. Easy, direct actions that don't take much time that you can do from the comfort of your own home, calling Congress, writing postcards. Then there's another section that covers immediate threats. There are often emergent issues. If you live in Minneapolis now, you know what I'm talking about with emergent issues, but you don't have to live in Minneapolis to just watch the news and you'll see all kinds of emergent issues that will need pushback. And we elders have a lot of people power, a lot of energy, a lot of intelligence, a lot of wisdom, and we can share our experience and engage not only ourselves, the 4,000 people in Elders Action Network, but each of us can engage our own families and friends and neighborhoods and get them involved as well. And the final part of the toolkit is called longer term actions. And these are more challenging things that are more time consuming. And the current project, the attending school board meetings and trying to protect students from bigotry and bullying is one such long-term project that folks are engaging in. And in addition to those three action parts of the toolkit, there's also a resources section that has an extensive inventory reference material that you can look at because there's a lot of disinformation out there, and it's you might wonder, people might wonder, well, how do I know what's true? And so this resource section gives you a sense of a variety of sources you can look to find what we think is fairly reliable information. And all of this, the toolkit was done. I just want to be clear. It was constructed and it is maintained. It requires a great deal of research and ongoing monitoring in order to stay current and relevant. And so we really hope that some of you can help us to maintain the current effectiveness of the toolkit by helping us keep it up to date. So in the few minutes I have left, I want to tell you a little bit about another team, the Defend Democracy team. That's the one that I facilitate, and it meets on the first and third Monday of the month. The Defend Democracy team, well, you heard John talk about the terrible state of our democracy and the authoritarian threats that we're living under, and it almost seems like the current regime is engaging in a coup against American democracy, and in a whole variety of ways. One of the most salient, and you can see it on the news every night, is the rise of a police state. And you know, they're not only militarized troops on the streets of well, LA first, and DC, and Chicago, and Charlotte, and now in Minneapolis. And the streets of our cities do not look like necessarily American cities. It looks more like Germany in the 1930s. And these militarized stormtroopers can look like what the Germans saw in the 1930s, and they're going around knocking on people's doors, pulling people out of cars, breaking car windows, beating people, carting them away in unmarked vehicles. And you know, that's really not a state of democracy that is getting us down the road to authoritarianism. And then on top of that, there's the Orwellian uh, censorship and thought police, not just the military police on the streets, but thought police trying to control what people think and the crush dissent, uh, people who disagree with them. They've got a tight grip on the mainstream media. And, if you even look at the way the New York Times, the paragon of all newspapers, has reported about Venezuela, it doesn't talk about an invasion like a war. It talks about ratcheting, the government ratcheted up the pressure on Venezuela. That was the headline in the New York Times. Well, it's more than ratcheting up the pressure if you've got sending troops in to invade and abduct the sitting president of the country. There's also control. The administration tries in a lot of ways to control what schools teach and colleges and universities. And we've all read about the ways in which the major universities and the minor universities in this country are being intimidated and attacked and threatened with fund cutoffs. NPR, public radio. It's a real authoritarian state, and it's going to take all of us to push back on it. So, as John said, it really seems like a nightmare out there, and it's easy to be depressed. And I must tell you that I refuse to be depressed and I refuse to give up. And I think that a lot of us are optimists and we see the glass is half full. Look at the way the country is rising in many ways to push back against the administration. 7 million people on the streets during the last No Kings rally, and people are pushing back in many of the cities where ICE is invading and trying to protect their neighbors. And there's a lot of pressure on our Congress members to stand up and fight back, even when the Democrats are in a minority. And this isn't partisan. This is about it's not about which party is imposing authoritarianism and which party is opposing authoritarianism. It's about democracy has to win and push out any semblance of authoritarianism in this country. But that's what this Defend Democracy team has been doing and will be doing, and that is trying to go through the fire hose of information that's out there, the fire hose of authoritarian threats, the fire hose of possible actions that my email is inundated with, and I'm sure yours too. This group is telling you, call your Congress member about this, and the other email tells you to go write a letter to the editor about that. And we're going to try to triage those things and prioritize the, not that any of them are unimportant, but the things that are most actionable, most immediate threats now, and also actionable, something that we elders can actually do something about and give you, put out action alerts that will describe for people, this is what you can do about the current issue. Right now, the Senate Appropriations Committee is holding hearings on increasing the funding for ICE. And so one thing that people can do is to contact their senators' offices and ask them to oppose adding more funding for ICE to conduct military operations in our city. Things like that are, current and doable. We all know how to call our Congress member, and we'll give you talking points and back up factual information with the sources from the toolkit. And that's what Defend Democracy will do. And I hope you will join us. And I'll put the link for to register for meetings into the chat. And I'll also put my email if you want to ask questions.
Thanks, Ken. So I will now speak. This is Joff Baker, Half Moon Bay, California. And I am going to tell you about the Communications Committee. So we have a communications committee that actually is involved in an important way in a number of the activities you've already heard about, as well as some of the activities you haven't heard about. Looking for slideshow. So in broad strokes, this committee is responsible for supporting our teams and members with information that advances the mission of the organization and its impact. And we communicate with all sorts of people, including, elders, volunteers, the community at large, to engage and mobilize people in the defense of democracy. So that's a generality. More specifically, we are involved in an important way in a number of the activities that you've already heard about and some activities you haven't heard about. So first, newsletters. Every other month, the committee sends out a newsletter to ESD members. And these newsletters are written either by members of the Communications Committee or other ESD members. Ken has already mentioned action alerts. Well, the Communications Committee is actually responsible for disseminating these action alerts that makes sure that members are notified in a very timely way about matters arising that they really should know about. Event promotions, so basically advertising events, upcoming events from Elders for Sound Democracy. Events such as the monthly community meeting, which we're having right now. And then the committee is responsible for maintaining the ESD pages on the EAN website and making sure that those are updated. And then finally, social media. It turns out that ESD is now beginning to have a more prominent social media presence. And we can do this because we now have the know-how to create sophisticated videos using AI tools. And I'll show you an example of one of these at the end here. In 2026, what we want to do is set our sights on YouTube and Instagram to promote voting. And again, whatever we do is nonpartisan. So these videos are hopefully useful, informative, but definitely nonpartisan. No surprise to any of you, I'm sure, why YouTube and Instagram. Well, these each have tens of millions of users, mind-boggling large numbers of users. And many of these people are in the ages 25 to 35 group. These are people who are at present very important to our country and even more important in the future. This project of ours, this social media project, is actually using artificial intelligence for good. That's nice. And we need help. We need a lot of help from people who like to write, tell stories, or ideate. So this is an invitation for you to join the communications committee. It meets on Tuesdays, 8:30 Pacific, 11:30 Eastern Time, a couple of times a month to 4 times a month. And we're looking for people who are writers, proofreaders, and editors of our newsletters, our event descriptions, our website, and looking for a website content and analytics manager. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a video, and hopefully the sound will be okay through Zoom. And a number of videos have been constructed by ESD in this calendar year, some of which you're seeing the front pages of, the thumbnails of. Many of these early on were really focused on disinformation, but now the focus is all in on get out the vote. So I will show you one of these for fun.
We don't want John or Harry.
You probably believe political persuasion still works like this.
Not
One
understand.
message, one audience, one shared reality. It doesn't. This is not 1952. Eisenhower's campaign assumed something fundamental. A handful of television networks, a shared cultural rhythm, a single message repeated often enough that persuaded millions. The jingle didn't ask who you were. It didn't care where you lived. It didn't use a computer to calculate if you were worth reaching. It simply invited you to belong. That world no longer exists. Modern political campaigns do not begin with a jingle. They begin with a database that knows almost everything about everyone. Before a message is written, voters are analyzed. Before persuasion, there is selection.
So with that, I will stop sharing the screen and move on to the next part of what we're about today. So what we're going to do now is we will be broken into breakout sessions, groups of several of us, to talk about address a couple of questions that will be put to you. And I'll put these questions in the chat as well as describe them verbally right now. So 2 questions to take on. One is, are local elections particularly important? And if you think they are, why? And the second question is, which of the presentations and actions that you've heard about today are of particular interest? So with that, Therese, please divide us up into breakout groups. And again, I'll put those questions in the chat.
Can anybody hear anybody?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I don't know what we're supposed to be doing. Sorry.
I can't help you with that.
You should have been invited to join a breakout group.
Yeah.
And you have a choice. If you said yes, you'll go into a small group discussion. Did you get that
Oh,
technically
I don't,
automatically on your screen?
I don't know if I said yes. I say join.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, should I just join the one that's up there right now? I don't really
Join whatever
understand.
whatever you've been offered. If you join it, you'll be in a small group.
All right, I'll join.
LW Jarrell, are you here? Are you able to join a small group discussion, even if we can't see your face live? Yes? If not, maybe you wandered off. I'm going to be the keeper of the flame here in the central group.
Okay, I'm here. I thought I had joined a group.
Well, look again. You should see a blue join button on your screen. Do you?
No, I see it. I'm on my phone, so it says
Oh,
breakout.
that's probably what it is. So you're stuck with me. How are you? We could talk if you like. Where do you come from? Where are you calling in from? Oh, she did. Good. Hi, Jerry. Hello, Jerry. Are you muted? Yes.
I'm sorry.
Not at all. Welcome. I'm doing the tech for today. So I'm in the central group. We're in the process of having small group discussions, and I don't know how to assign you to one. So let me just welcome you. Maybe you and I can talk. Have you been here before? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, I've been on, this is Elders for Democracy.
Exactly, exactly. So you've been to our meetings before?
I thought it was starting at 1.
What time zone are you in?
I'm in Central.
That's the problem. It started at 1 in Eastern.
Oh,
Because we have people from across the country, 1
right.
Eastern, 11, it's always a challenge. So, well, welcome. I'm in Eastern.
Well,
I'm in
you're welcome.
Philadelphia.
I'm
Where are you where are you located?
Milwaukee.
Ah, well, you must be Lorna's friend.
I know Lorna. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll be so welcome. I think we must have said hello before.
Yeah.
I think you might be the person who originated the idea of really a project to write letters to the editor.
No, no,
No.
that was a fellow in Waukesha,
Ah,
nearby. Yeah.
okay. Well, I think um, I'm impressed by you folks out in
Thanks.
Wisconsin. This week we are expecting almost 2 feet of snow, which
Uh,
here in Philadelphia on Sunday. And that has not happened for over 10 years. So I think I'm
that'll
feeling
be
a
exciting.
affinity. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. But what we've been doing today, and we'll send you the recording and also some slides. What we've been doing is talking about the kinds of actions and or efforts we're making to get out the vote and to defend democracy. And I will say, for sure, listen to the beginning of the recording because John Sorensen talked about, which I didn't know, he talked about being on the Apollo team that got the message, Apollo, Houston, we have a problem. And he was, you probably know this, he was part of the team that figured out how to get those astronauts back.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing. And he says, you know, Houston, we have a problem and we need to figure out how to really preserve our democracy. So it's exciting. That was a good opening. And we have a lot of things we're asking for. Are you working with Lorna on the Wisconsin chapter team a little bit?
Yeah.
Are there
Yeah.
particular things you're interested in?
Well, I'm relatively new to all of it, so I'm particularly interested in, and mentioned it earlier, I think, the idea of reaching parents and early childhood educators to nurture democracy in our youngest children.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm really these days concerned about anything and everything we can do to rebuild democracy.
Right. It's such a challenge right now. I yeah, the only person I can think of who is really interested in transforming schools in a fundamental way, which would be probably very much um, in the spirit of what you're saying, is Ann Adams from California, who she's looking at older school systems that serve older kids, but she's extremely interested in how do we help each student and each child really feel known, not just be a
Right.
cipher,
Yeah.
which I think is wonderful. I will also, and I'll try to remember to introduce you to Anne by email. You'll enjoy meeting her,
Right.
although she'll enjoy meeting you. Um, I will also say that we're having in the high school Promote Youth Voting program, we will be having a speaker on democracy and education, Karen Chenoweth. This will be let me just check and see, when is it? It is, come on here, it's February 9th, Monday afternoon. And what's particularly interesting about Karen is that right now, her organization supports people who want to recruit folks and support people who are running for local school boards. But she's a longtime journalist on education. And there's a book she wrote that was published by Harvard University Press about systems that work to really help transform the experience of students. And again, she's mainly looking at public schools. I think I found it as another old educator, I found it really interesting because she talks about systems and accountability and really measuring down to the student level, which I think is a through message, right?
Right.
We can't. So I would encourage you to take a look at her book, which you'll see it's in her event is on the EAN website now, and we'll send you a link to it after this. She's very interesting, and she will be talking. Her organization is nonpartisan. I'm watching the time. We have a few more minutes before I have to call everyone back to the group. But Karen actually has been supporting school board candidates who've been really fighting fascism in the schools, to be very honest with you. And she's been supporting people, her resources support people who've been winning in Texas. And I live in Philadelphia. She was supporting some of the people who really took back some of the school systems just north of Philadelphia. So it's a tough thing. And she says, I was a school board member many years ago. And she says you can't have individuals agreeing to register and do all the financing and do all the campaigning before they serve, because it just takes more. If the community is going to really get good people, it means groups of people in the community have to be recruiting and supporting those folks, which people have to, unfortunately, there's a lot of money starting to be spent in school board races now. When I ran
Yeah,
in Princeton,
and
New
it's being
Jersey,
spent to,
pardon?
it's being spent in a way that's almost anti-education.
Totally. I would agree with you. But I think, when I ran for school board in Princeton, New Jersey, I filed the papers and I said, I don't need any money. I don't want to file.
Right.
The whole thing cost about $400. And that's no longer possible, particularly in some of these larger school districts. So she has smart tools, and her organization has two meetings a month. One is on supporting campaigns and one is on policy in schools. So really interesting. And she won't let you in to see her deep resources until she's talked to you. Whoa, she's a serious lady. So
All
I
right.
recommend both those people to you. Um,
Thank you.
you're welcome. I will say we have a lot of folks in Elders Action Network who have deep connections to schools and care about schools. And if you push us, preschool is the place to start for sure.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that because I was having communication with a friend yesterday who's an agricultural economist, and has really been for many years now proposing a whole different way to be looking at economics and land.
Mm.
But we were talking about these times and both agreeing that where we have really messed up is in our socialization and education in this country. We
yes.
have missed it. We have really screwed up terribly.
It is, and it's going to be really hard to change that.
That's going to be one
hard
of the
to change
keys
it.
to rebuilding, though. We have to
Yeah.
rebuild a really sound way of helping young people learn, and it has to be totally rethought. We have
Yes.
to really rethink learning.
I agree. So I remember you were doing playgrounds. Even though I cared deeply about education, did a lot of graduate education, but I'd really worked a lot mostly in business schools, helping businesses to do better. I'm retired at the moment. I've been working with a nonprofit that advises for-profit businesses, some that are established, but a number of us think, yeah, that has real potential. And one of the groups that I'm working with now, we put together a team of professionals who help that business, that CEO, over the space of about a year, because they typically lack some skills and
Right.
awareness in order to get to the next level. Your typical entrepreneur does everything themselves, and they have to start letting go and using expertise and using systems. Anyway, I've been working with a daycare center, early childhood education in North Philly, which with a phenomenal woman who is just absolutely committed to giving a great experience to the children of her neighborhood. And I mean, she's amazing. She got a $500,000 grant from one of our economic development agencies that was looking for a daycare center to really expand and provide this kind of educational daycare and social daycare but someone totally approached her, and she's also doing a doctorate, so she's like so talented.
Wow.
But one of the things she does is she does arts with the children. There's always an arts program, and they have, at the moment, They do have an outdoor area. But if you're interested in early childhood, and you want to talk to, I'm sure she'd love to hear your wisdom. So
Well, and what you're saying about her, I would really recommend that you tell her to check out Rukia Rogers.
spell it.
Rukiarogers.
Uh-huh.
She's written things for the Exchange, and maybe the person you know knows about the Exchange.
Probably does.
But Rukia has proposed, and they're going to be doing, I think,
And I need to interrupt
maybe it's
you.
this week, actually. They're doing a thing about democracy
Oh,
in
how
early
neat.
childhood education.
Great. I need to go look, but I
Okay.
also have to close all our rooms.
Okay.
Great to talk to
Good
you.
to talk with you.
Thank you. And people should be coming back, I think. There's usually, when I press that, that takes about a minute. I will let her know. She's an interesting woman. She's always way ahead of us. I love it.
Good.
Welcome. It always takes a few minutes for people to come back from breakout sessions. So thank you for your patience. Here we are.
Jeff, you are muted.
Wow, and I said all those words. Oh well. What I'd like to do, what I'd like to do now is hear from a member of each of the breakout groups, if possible, about how you addressed one or both of those questions that I put in the chat. And I'll just start. I was in a breakout group with several people I know, including Janice and Lorna and a person I haven't met, Kathy Johnson, and a very illuminating conversation. A highlight in talking about why local elections are important, and to no surprise, nobody thinks they aren't, was the example of how important it is to have a particular phenotype of a mayor in a city that is being haunted and abused by ICE. That's an elected position. So there's an example of that. With respect to what do we find interesting in terms of the projects, well, 3 of the 4 of us were already deeply immersed in ESD projects right now. And Kathy is not, but she is very, very active, a very, very active activist out on the street, championing voting, et cetera, et cetera. So great conversation. May I hear from someone else? From another team? Anyone?
Well, my breakout session had 2 women from outside of the United States, and it was really, really interesting to hear their perspective. One from Canada, one from Kenya, and that was expanding. It was great.
And
Thank you.
our group had everybody in it working politically and commenting. We had someone from Texas, Ohio, myself, Arizona, and Florida, and talked about living in red states and work we could do. And all of us are doing meaningful work at different levels, locally and not so much locally.
Thanks, Catherine. Someone else?
Hello, this is George Marsh from Ohio, and I took part in Catherine's discussion group. There were 4 of us, and Catherine mentioned a couple of things which I found very interesting, and they're quite specific. Evidently, there is an organization called Club America, which is being introduced in high schools. I suppose they're mostly public high schools. This Club America is a branch of Turning Point USA, which is the Charlie Cook organization, the late Charlie Cook. And it may well be that it's not entirely nonpartisan. And so as an organization of nonpartisan political activists here, I will try to go to my local high school, the public school that is, and see whether this is being introduced, because it sounds a little biased. Let me see. Catherine mentioned something else. Bless your heart, Catherine. This is fascinating. There's an organization called the Wiser Group or the Wiser Organization. I don't know how that's spelled.
It's the WISER, WISER pilot program for anyone in traditional Medicare that went into effect January 1st. You now need prior authorization, and a robot will be denying that because the corporations put money in their pocket. So those of us on traditional Medicare, not Medicare Advantage, are at threat right now, and it's running along, and every horrible thing about it that was predicted has begun.
That's very interesting. You said that if you have a Medicare Advantage program, you won't be affected by this. Is that right?
Well, Medicare Advantage isn't really Medicare. It's corporate profit-driven Medicare. So they use prior authorization already to deny care, to do what they're trying to bring in, to traditional Medicare, essentially.
So Catherine and George, can I make a quick comment to add on to that?
Absolutely.
So there were, Catherine was the source of this information to begin with, but there were 6 states where Wiser was introduced as of January 1st, and Washington State, where I live, is one of those. But I think the real point is not the specifics of what this pilot does, but that this is the first of a series of attacks on Medicare as it currently exists as Part B. So it's not just the 17 things where the robot's going to reject it. It's the beginning of the compound action to try and get rid of or privatize whatever there is remaining of Medicare when they're done with it.
Well put. Thank you.
Well, very interesting. Sad. Anyone else from a breakout group want to report in?
Yeah, I'll just say something briefly from our group. Both Margaret Piranian lives just south of Minneapolis, and Dick's daughter and family live the same place. And I'd like to have them speak about what they're hearing from actually living there. And Margaret in particular is thinking about going back to Canada. So please Margaret, can you just say a little bit about that so everybody can hear what you're very close to terrible things, if you will.
Ground zero.
Or Dick, you want to?
Yeah, I don't have a lot to report in that regard. Robert Reich put out yesterday a document that included some history from Hitler's Germany and the rise of the black shirts and brown shirts in Italy and Germany. But he also included a link in there with regard to general strike being called for Friday in the Minneapolis area. I have yet to hear from my daughter whether they're going to participate in that. But basically, what they're telling people is not to go to work and not to go to school and not to spend any money as a protest against ICE. So I wish I had more to report directly from my own family, but I think they're in the midst of kids in high school and teaching and all the things that keep you trying to pretend that the world hasn't changed around you, and it has. So I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Dick.
Well, I think we may be running short on time. And so what I will do now is introduce Lorna, who will bring things home for us. Lorna.
All right, bringing things home. That's what I'll do. I so appreciate all of you for, first of all, coming, but also sharing what you're thinking and all that you're doing. It's, I think it's heartwarming when we're surrounded by so much down stuff that people are coming together and talking about what they're doing and all the things that we can do to stand up together. We say we're stronger together, and I really think that's true. And I think I just love the fact that everybody has been so open and sharing and enthusiastic. So let's go to what is happening next in our next programs. Do you want to do the next slide, please? We have a couple of things happening. We have a program called Conversation for Democracy. This is a program we are doing to let people know a little bit more about what ESD, Elders for Sound Democracy, is as an organization and what we are doing to support democracy. And then we give people a chance again to talk about what they're doing, what they want to do, how they want to get involved. And another great time where we share some ideas and kind of motivate and inspire each other together. So that's happening next week, a week from today. In a month, we are very honored to host Robert Hubble for a community meeting. He is a well-known Substacker, but he also gives just really thoughtful and clear commentaries on what is happening in the United States and all surrounding us. And he sprinkles that with a little bit of hope every now and then. So that is refreshing. But he is going to speak with us, and we are really looking forward to him. Maybe he has some dreams too that he's following. We'll have to ask him. So that is coming up in a month on February 18th. And as Janice talked about, the voting action meeting is coming up as well next week. And there's a registration. You will be given all of these slides in the presentation and all the slides. So you will have all the links, and you will have all the contacts and all the information that you need to connect with any of these programs. So that's another program. And next slide, please. We do have a call to action, a get out the vote. This is for the Wisconsin Supreme Court election, another important election in Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is one of those states that anything we can do makes a big difference, because our elections can be so close that even changing things a little bit makes a big difference. We, as Janice talked to, we partner with a group called the Center for Common Ground. They focus on voters of color, and they're focusing on voters of color all over the state of Wisconsin this time. We are going to be sending out packets for you. The packets will go out in mid-February when we get all the addresses. So if you sign up before then, we'll have all the addresses and information we need in order to send out the packets The packets will contain the postcards you need, the instructions, and the addresses. The leader of the Center for Common Ground is very specific. She knows her audience, and she gives very clear instructions on how to do it. She encourages us to be creative with our design and our colors, but she gives the script because she knows what script will make a difference with her target audience. So the packets will contain that. What you provide are postcard stamps and those colorful pens to get creative and your enthusiasm. What we're doing is asking you to register, and you can get the link when we send out these slides, or we'll be sending out a link as well. But the link will take you to a place to register where we can get your address and information so that we can send out these packets. If you're from Wisconsin, that's great, but all over, everyone can join us in strong Supreme Courts. We talked a little bit about why local elections are important. And I think one of the reasons that local elections are important is because they can kind of safeguard, maybe be a little firewall with all the voter suppression and the voter stuff that might, the election questions and all that. So they help us maintain our rule of law in our state. And I think that that's one really important aspect of our local elections all over the country. But this is an offer that everybody is invited to take part in, and we would love to have you join us. We thank you again so much for joining us today. It has been a real pleasure. We will send you, as I said, the slides and a little the recording of the presentations, so you will have all that. We'll look forward to seeing you again as we go through. And our time is up. And but I would like to, if you wish to stay a little bit longer and just talk with us, if you have any questions or have anything you want to say, we will keep the Zoom open a little bit for you to come and talk with us. But thank you so much for joining, and good luck, and let's go forward with all the things that are happening. Take care. Bye-bye.